Well, welcome everyone to another inspiring 30 Goals Conference keynote. And today we have Noah Geisel, who is super, super awesome. I got to meet him in person in San Antonio. We had a blast. Noah, will you let us know where you are in the world today?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to see everybody. I am joining you live from a conference room at the City Center Marriott in lovely Denver, Colorado, where I'm attending the AATSP conference, the American Association of Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese. Definitely my people, and I'm having a great time here.
Well, while he gets his stuff together, I'm going to go ahead and let you know a little about Noah. Noah is really inspiring and amazing. I got to speak with him for hours when he was here. He is also inspiring with many language teachers around the world.
Can I ask you to turn the volume down on that?
What?
Can I ask you to turn the volume down? I'm just recording.
Okay, and so just he was the 2013 National Language Teacher of the Year. You can find him on Twitter at Senior G. He does a lot with gamification and badging. In fact, he is the founder of Bad Chat K-12, which he invited me to moderate, so I'm really excited about that. But one of the great things he does is the way that he happens to be using badging. He works with Aurora Public Schools, and he's doing a digital badging system that recognizes students' assets and unlocks opportunities. It's such a fantastic initiative that the Bill Clinton Global Initiative meeting invited him, the Clintons, yes, the famous Clintons of the U.S., and have recognized it as such a great endeavor that they're going to help. It's going to be one of the things that they support. So he's definitely doing things to transform education. And today he's going to share with you some of his inspiration. So I'll let him share it with you.
Wow, thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Shelley. I am pretty sure I'm blushing over here. Thank you so much. I called my title of my talk today, Beyond We Should Do Something About That, getting to actually doing something. And, I got on this topic because I am a huge fan of TED Talks. I'm a huge fan of the Ignite Talks. I mean, anything like this that just gets us inspired. I mean, it is no accident that Sir Ken Robinson has, just quazillions of views of his TED Talks and other talks, and I'm sure commands an enormous speaking feed to share with us, his really inspiring words about, ways that we need to encourage students to be creative in school, right? And there's just these talks are motivational, they're inspirational, they really raise our awareness, right? Everybody by now has probably seen, I'd be surprised if you haven't even seen it more than once, the How to Start a Movement TED Talk, right, with Crazy Dancing Guy. And so, we watch these awesome talks and videos, and these speakers have this amazing platform. And at the end of it, as motivated, as inspired as we are, one of the questions that I kind of find myself asking myself is, instead of taking 7 minutes there, 2 minutes or 11 minutes of inspiring us, could that have just been, captured in 6, 7 words on a motivational poster of somebody climbing a mountain? And those motivational posters definitely have a place. At the same time, I wonder, do they take us to the next step? And just to be fair, I don't want to totally pick on Sir Ken Robinson, TED Talks, Ignite Talks. That these are all amazing movements in our society, and that they're also not a new problem, right? My parents are definitely of the hippie generation, and they will, own that. My mom has said multiple times, my generation, we kind of let it down. We were out there saying flower power, and we had, a real voice about the problem, and we didn't necessarily do anything about it, right? If this is what we see flower power as today, maybe we didn't actually get to the solutions beyond just, shaking our fists in the air and talking about the problem that we have. And, I guess one way to look at this is, if we say there's a problem, somebody should do something about it, it's kind of like, telling us we should get somewhere and not given any sort of a roadmap. I'm really just excited around the idea of roadmaps and actually helping people get from point A to point B, right? Especially a lot of the folks in participating in the 30 Goals Conference, we are, I'm guessing a lot of us really involved in the ed tech space. And I think that we have a lot of, looking in the mirror to do on this problem, not just looking out the window and pointing fingers, but, really looking and reflecting on ourselves, because I think that we do a lot of this, right? That, this a screenshot I took from Kevin Honeycutt, collaborative Google Drawing, where he was saying, hey, I'm building a Chromebook toolkit, and all these educators were hopping on, including myself, and sharing, hey, what are the toolkits? And at the same time, what are we really giving a teacher? Is there a roadmap here for teachers and learners about, okay, you have Chromebooks, here's a bunch of tools, and I'm really into the idea of, okay, so if we're going to have these tools, what are we actually going to do with these tools in order to make a difference, to powerfully impact teaching and learning? I think that, we in ed tech are just really bad about this, and that's really why I was just beyond flattered, honored, and super mega muy excited when Shelley invited me to join as a keynote for the 30 Goals conference, because just what she and all of you who are with us live right now and watching this on the recorded version of this talk are just doing amazing things, because you're not just saying, here's a problem, somebody should do something about it. You're saying, I'm going to do something about it. And I really value, honor, and respect that, and I love how Shelley really breaks it down at sort of a granular level of not necessarily saying, the world needs to be fixed, let's, somebody do something about it, but here's some 30 tangible, concrete things that we can do. What are you going to do about it? And, so as I was getting ready for this talk, I sort of dug in a little bit to the Facebook group and Shelley's Storyfies that she's putting together of what different folks are doing. I loved, especially as a Spanish teacher, this project from Maria and Sylvia, where, it's a 23-minute long video where they're showing how they're really personalizing for their students. She calls it the Let Them Shine goal, and they're doing pirate interviews where their kids are role-playing. They're getting into sea creatures, descriptions of things that matter to her learners, and you see them acquiring English not because, of a filling-in-the-blank worksheet, but because of filling in the blank of something that's important to them and meaningful to them. And I just love projects like that. One of the most well-known projects that I found when I was looking into it is, of course, Lisa Dabb's Teach with Soul. She does the NT, the New Teacher Chat, and this is a chat that I've hopped on a handful of times and just find so inspiring, where you have early career teachers who are so willing to be vulnerable and put themselves out there and say, help. And it's just a really rewarding feeling to jump in and say, oh, hey, you're looking for some Cinco de Mayo resources? Here's 30 bookmarks I have on Cinco de Mayo, including like some web quests and awesome activities. Take this. Don't reinvent the wheel. You focus on your classroom management. Let some of the more veteran teachers do the heavy lifting for you. And what she has built is just this amazing, thriving community where that's happening all the time. I don't think it's necessarily limited to their chat. You see action on that hashtag happening throughout the week, and that, I think, is just really getting it going beyond. We should do something about that. And so, getting beyond just highlighting other people's work in this space, I wanted to share one of my favorite. I'm a podcast addict. I will put that out there. The IDEO Futures podcast is one that I listen to religiously. I'm yet to miss an episode. I learn and grow every time I listen to them. I think they're geniuses. And if your school or district or environment is doing anything where the design thinking is a buzzword, you are probably using resources that came out of the IDEO shop. And at the end of every one of their podcasts, one thing I love is that they say, don't get ready, get started. And we in education can have this obsession with wanting to be perfect out of the gate, and fear of being judged, and which is reasonable, right? We do get judged, and so it's not always easy to be make ourselves vulnerable and put ourselves out there. And at the same time, if our perfection requires us to be perfect, a lot of times we might not ever get an actual prototype out there. So don't get ready, get started. And how do I do that? I kind of have, and if you are following along at all on the slide deck, at the bottom of this deck I have a link where you can read my sort of manifesto about this, but I decided that sort of my analogy for what the problem I see with folks who only are willing to identify the problem and not helping us out by going deeper and telling us what to do about it, I kind of view that as singing along with the chorus. You know, the chorus is easy, it's catchy, it oftentimes rhymes, it's easy to memorize, it sounds good, it's what people really pay attention to at the end of the day anyways, you know, it's the sound bites. At the same time, you know, the real storytelling doesn't happen in the chorus. The real work doesn't happen in the chorus. It happens in the verses. And so I started my company and called it Versus Education for that reason. And, you know, because in my mind, if you're not willing to go into the verses, you're not a lead singer, you know, you're a backup singer. And so I'm determined to be a leader in things that I'm passionate about, and this is how I'm going about it. So I'm going to share 3 quick stories with you about how I'm doing. The first one where I saw a problem is around culture in the language teaching classroom. When you ask people who learned or acquired a second language, what made you fall in love with it? You know, if they think about it, it's probably not verb tenses, it's not this amazing worksheet their teachers did, it was the culture, the music, the dance, the history, the architecture, the food, and you know, sometimes, just not sometimes, often in our world language teaching classrooms, culture is sort of a secondary element. It's one page out of the chapter, not actually integrated into everything we do. And so 2 years ago, I actually started a project that kind of dove into this culture and used our national standards, and I called it Meme Martes. And it started out as just taking a meme every Tuesday and posting it onto a Tumblr page. And then it grew from that into sharing out these posts more often than every Tuesday, and making the tagging in a really sophisticated way, the Tumblr, so that anyone who's teaching whatever the vocabulary they're teaching, they had the ability to quickly do a quick search for my tags and see if I've created pop culture content that would align with what they're teaching that week. And that grew into creating just a shared Google Doc. I mean, nothing fancy, but a shared Google Doc where teachers are sharing what are the culture activities that you do that are awesome. And we're up now to, I think, a couple hundred activities there where we're just hooking our language learners with culture, and you know, just a little bit in, we're really making a difference. And it's that Google Doc has over 10,000 clicks just from my links to it. The Meme Martes, I was shocked by this. I honestly hadn't, I've kind of been slacking on my Meme Martes, to be honest, the last year. And but when I went to grab a screenshot for this presentation, I was amazed that it has almost 100,000 clicks in my just conference presentation I'm sharing with teachers on hooking world language students with culture. A Prezi has almost 6,000 views, which in my mind is just absurd, you know, that there are that many dorks like me out there who are just dialed into this work and think it's powerful and important. And I'm seeing it grow now to where other teachers are taking what I'm doing and doing it just way better than I ever could have, and just scaling it up for their classrooms. Now it's their blogs that everyone in the language community is going to learn and share and grow, to just make awesome happen on a daily basis. And it's just so inspiring to see it go there. Shelly, in the next one Shelly mentioned is the Badge Chat K-12, and she gives me way too much credit. We are definitely a community. She and Sarah Thomas, one of the 30 Goals Conference organizers, along with Joe Dillon at One Wheel Joe, Laura Sexton at Senora Spanglish, the 5 of us sort of recognize that there's a bunch of folks out there who are really interested in this idea of digital badges, and there was just no space for us to get together with like-minded folks and talk about it. And so, you know, invited stakeholders reached out to the Badge Alliance, who, if you don't know, that they are sort of the big group, I guess, in an institutional way that are helping get the digital badge movement going, and said, hey, you know, this isn't happening in a K-12 way. It needs to happen. Do you guys want to do it? And if not, are you okay if we do it? And do you want to host the archives, or do you want to contribute in any way? And they basically said, anything you want to do, run with it. We think this is awesome. And so we did. And we started a weekly chat. You know, the 5 of us opened the doors. We approached it with a beginner's mindset, because there's probably 0 people right now on planet Earth with 10,000 hours of badging experience. So, you know, there really are no experts. You know, even those of us whose knees and elbows are more skinned up and muddied than others are still learning every day and every week. And, we can already see that we are making a difference. A teacher joined us last week, blogged about it right away, that this was her first time ever taking part in a Twitter chat, and she just loved it. Angela Cordy, this amazing professor in Michigan, is shared a presentation on digital badging at ISTE this year and had a shout out to Badge Chat in there. Nick Cummings, who is, a real provocateur in the Twitter space, he has no qualms. He does not mince words or hold back punches, and go and call into task things that he thinks maybe need to be called to task. And so kind of flattering that even though when he joins Badge Chat K-12, he brings a lot of critical questions to the table, and just really flattering to hear him say, yeah, I really love that you guys are doing this, and you're having some of the critical conversations. And that's just awesome and really validates for us that we are making a difference in this world. And then the last one I want to share is what Shelley mentioned there, the APS, Aurora Public Schools digital badges. And this is one where I in no ways am a part necessarily of the origin story. It was born at the highest level. The superintendent of Aurora Public Schools, Mr. Rico Munn, he gets digital badges and said, every student in our school district needs to have an academic plan. Every student needs to have the skills to succeed after high school, whether that's career and or higher education. And every student needs to have credentials in order to communicate that they have those skills. And he views digital badges as one of the ways that we can represent that, because right now there's this huge problem in the world that these skills are invisible on transcripts. My A-, B+, whatever grade I get in your class doesn't communicate my skills. And it's difficult to verify on resumes, right? Like the recommendations that we have on LinkedIn at this point in time, July 2015, that they're a joke, right? And so, APS is really putting themselves out there to take a first crack at, can we make a difference here? And I was asked if I could help, and I said yes. I put a ring on it, and we developed this badge system. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to go too deep into the badge system, but what I'll say is that the 5 big badges you see are aligned with, in Colorado, the 21st century skills that are represented in every content area, every age band. So whether you are a first grade teacher, preschool teacher, middle school science, high school librarian, PE, Spanish, these 5 21st century skills show up in your state standards. And so wherever our young people shine, whether it's your class, my class, her class, they are going to have avenues to earn credentials in order to represent ways in which they are shining, and then communicate those to mom, dad, other teachers, colleges, employers. And we are just really excited about changing the world in this regard. And we, are we making a difference yet? I think we're a little premature to make that claim, but we really think we are on our way to making a difference. We did get invited to the Clinton Global Initiative, as Shelley said. One of the coolest moments in my life was right after I got invited to have this photo taken with President Clinton. This is a little bit of a birdwalk, but I walk past him and see that his press secretary is a former student of mine, Angela Urena, who I taught the 5-paragraph essay to as an 11th grader in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, back in 2002, is now Bill Clinton's press secretary. So that was a really neat one to tie in, and that I got there, because we're doing awesome work. And that is an invite-only conference where we got on their radar, and they said, we want you belong here sharing with our conference, and we want you to make a commitment. Our commitment is called Recognizing Assets and Opening Doors, and it is all about scaling up this work in Aurora, as well as working with ACTFL, the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, to establish a language proficiency credential that we're going to be credentialing next year in 5 cities. 30 students start out in our pilot cities in each of those 5 sites, where we're going to be giving these non-native English speakers a credential of their language proficiency that, as long as they're hitting high enough level of language proficiency, they're going to be earning 2 to 6 credits from college, so that for our student who immigrated here from Somalia and she can't take a language course in her native language, we're going to be able to value the asset that she's bringing to the table, credential that in a way that employers are going to value, so that she maybe even doesn't need higher ed, and if she does choose higher ed, she's going to have a head start there because of this language credential there. She's going to be getting college credit that celebrates, recognizes, and values her assets. And I just cannot be more excited than I am about that work. And I know I've been speaking super mega muy rapidamente, but just to wrap up, I know that one of the goals, it's not the goal to which I'm addressing, but it is to be someone's champion. And I would be remiss if I did not mention Shelly Blake Plock. He is at Blake Plock, no dash on the Twitter. He founded teachpaperless.com, which for a lot of us in that tech space was the golden standard for blogging and talking about just how do we change the world together. And you know, I had a chance to ask him, what was it about me that, you know, you were willing to, you know, let me write on your site and share my thoughts. And you know, this is what he had to tell me, and that I will never forget the moment he told me that. I know exactly where I was and what I was wearing. It was a real impactful moment in my life. He was my champion and helped me believe in myself that, hey, you know what, it is not just okay, it is really an imperative to be audacious, and when you see a problem, not just to say somebody should do something about it, but to say I'm going to do something about it and change the world. And so just really to close out, I'd say that, you know, when you see a problem, what are you going to do about it? Big, small, you know, just how are you going to change the world? Because you can do it, and we are all here to help you do it and promote and share your work in how you are impacting teaching and learning. Thank you so much for your time, and Shelly, I'm going to stop my screen share and jump into the Q&A.
Well, thank you so much for inspiring us. There is definitely a lot of people chatting and being inspired by you. I'm going to put you up now, and I'm going to go ahead and go through your chat. There are some kind of, wow. Oh, sorry. I just got a really great chat, and it's from, you may know her, Ellen Ann Geisel, who I was bragging about in the chat.
She was my roommate for many years. Housemate, I think.
And she says, Noah's passion for language, students, teachers, and change is absolutely genuine, and his presentation is exactly as he is in person. And I can agree with that too. So Sabrina says that your project, so I'm going to read you some of the great comments that were there. It reminds me of the Scout badges and patches, motivates and makes someone proud. Judy Wong says, yes, no, culture awareness and relevance is important in reaching our students. Peggy George says, so can you hear all of these? If you have anything to comment on them, let me know.
Oh, yeah, real quick, the one I would jump in is for anyone who is interested in the badges, that chat co-moderated by myself, Shelly, Laura, Joe, and Sarah is every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, hashtag BadgeChatK12. And BadgeChatK12.com is where you can go and see all of our archives. In addition to do a Storify, we usually annotate it, so it's not just everyone's tweets. We do select a little bit and add some comments in there, and we do have a resource page there as well where there's some quick links where you can get up to speed and just get dialed into some of the best reads there are on the internet, so that you don't need to be doing that research on your own. We're doing it for you.
You had some other comments about Peggy George made a comment as well. She says that your quote reminded her of don't just talk about it, do something.
Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna ask you a question about, okay, for those who are inspired by different things, especially this conference, what's a good way for them to go about actually doing something if they feel, for example, like, you know, many people feel like, oh, well, we don't have enough time, or maybe they don't know what is, like, they might be inspired, but they don't know what it's kind of a project or something it could turn into. So what would be your suggestion for that?
You know, it's so funny, and this is going to sound so dorky, and I hope it doesn't come across as insincere, but, you know, when we're in grad school, we're in PD, you know, we are forced to do SMART goals so often, and one of the disappointing things for me is that seems to only be this weird exercise that happens in grad school, not in the real world, right? Where so many of our bosses don't. It's like, where did you do a SMART goal on this? But I really encourage you to start small. Start with a low-hanging fruit that you can identify what is achievable. I love the A in SMART goal for achievable, and so think to yourself, this is the way I want to change the world, and here's something that I can start out with that's achievable, and that it's quick, it's scalable, and sort of in that design thinking mindset, it's something that I can really get out to users very quickly so that I can very quickly get feedback on it and retool, revisit it, and iterate better the next time. So before I put in 20 hours, put in 20 minutes, and then go out on the street and find just a random person and say, hey, will you take a look at this and tell me if you think I'm completely full of it or if this is awesome? And if and then take that feedback and iterate on it before you've sunk in a bunch of time, to go down what might be the wrong road and doing something that your users don't necessarily need or want. That's just one piece of advice. I think also, finding advocates. One of the greatest challenges, you see it whether it's on Lead with Giants, EdChat, and just on so many different, just on people ranting in our communities on Twitter, we see people saying that innovation is stifled by bosses who aren't leaders, as Eric would say, and I think we really need to be seeking out leaders who can champion our work, who can reassure that we're going to be in a safe place to innovate, because that is definitely a hurdle for a lot of us. If we're doing innovation that makes some folks uncomfortable, and all of a sudden, even though what you're trying to do is to change the world and do what's best for kids, you find that being questioned. And so you shouldn't have to do that, and at the same time, you're better served to ask yourself, who can advocate for me on this project? Who can be my champion so that I don't need to necessarily live in fear?
The other question we got was from Colleen Worrell, and she says, I love the be audacious message and do something. Meshes with my own thinking. What tips can you give for gaining traction with our audacious idea? Audacious, sorry.
Audacious?
Yeah, audacious.
Yeah. Hey, tomato. The best part is being audacious, not pronouncing it correctly, right? I just go right. That I'm really just looking at why you're here, right? And this conference is called the 30 Goals Conference, right? It's about goal setting. It is about holding yourself accountable to something, and so it can be as simple as when Teach with Soul, when she started New Teacher Chat, one of the things she had to do was she had to probably go on her Google Calendar or Outlook calendar, and she had to, on that day, that time, set a recurring reminder that blocked off that hour of her life, right? And that is, she had some skin in the game right off the bat, where she set a goal, and one of the accountability measures was, here's an hour once a week where I'm going to be spending time on this. And then probably in week 2, she realized, I better set another time earlier in the day or a couple days ahead of time where I plan for that, that it takes more than just the hour to run the chat. So another thing is to find out, is anybody else doing anything like what you're doing? Because so often we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I'm really inspired by the idea of the Hive. Look up Hive Pittsburgh, Hive Dallas, Hive New York especially, Hive Dallas, where these communities are coming together. The idea is that we're all busy bees buzzing around doing stuff and we're not aware of one another. So you have communities that are forming a hive that basically is whatever physical, digital, it is a space where bees can come together and share the work they're doing and find out, hey, we should be shaking hands and holding hands and doing this dance together instead of doing this work, in silos. And so finding communities and networks like that where maybe your big audacious idea doesn't have to be as heavy a lift as what you might imagine now, because somebody else has already gotten that ball rolling, and maybe they're even doing it in ways that would supplement your skill set. You're really creative, they're really good at execution, and they're doing some awesome execution on this. They could really use your big ideas. Joining forces with them could be a really great idea to level up, if you will, your impact even at an early stage, while just having a lighter lift and working smarter, not harder.
I love so much the whole beehive metaphor, because I've heard tribes, which I think are very similar, and I know that's like a concept that's been around for a while online, but I really like the whole bees coming together. Peggy asks, Peggy George, do people use Remind to provide themselves, oh, I think she's asking a general question to the audience, themselves daily reminders about working on their goals? Or I guess, what are daily another similar question is, how do you keep yourself motivated to keep your goals and to go forth for them? Because obviously you achieved a lot.
Yeah, usually it's by sleeping 12 hours a day, right? um, that's it. Part of it is balance, and I think that probably the biggest critique that almost every person who's speaking here, between yesterday, the Thursday's pre-conference, tomorrow, that a lot of us probably have in common is a lot of us really stink at work-life balance. So that is one place not to emulate us. Is if you have really amazing relationships in your personal life, do everything you can to not mess that up by becoming a workaholic, and set boundaries to yourself. Using Remind is a great idea, Peggy. I don't do it. I tend to stick with my Google Tasks and Google Calendar, and I do have some things that can be automated. I'm a big fan of IFTTT to automate some stuff, and at the same time, some of these automation tools and some of these technology tools that we use to simplify our life end up becoming, an extra 90 minutes of my day sucking up my time because I just get so into it. So can very easily be a double-edged sword. Something that I'm still not good at, but I'm trying to do, is something that my good buddy Savane taught me, and it is a 4-box matrix. It's a quadrant, so it's just a vertical line and horizontal line, and it's doing important on the x-axis, if you will, and urgent on the y-axis. And it's a way of organizing your to-do list. So you look at everything you have coming up, and he does it every day. So things that are longitudinal or things that didn't get crossed off his to-do list the day before, that morning get re-entered on his matrix. And he does it by hand, I think, so it gets rewritten on his matrix, and then it goes into, is it something that is high importance, low urgency? Is something that is low importance but high urgency? High urgency, high importance would be the top right-hand column or box of your quadrant, and using that to prioritize is really helpful, right? So sometimes, like getting 10,000 steps in is something that, may not feel in the moment why it's really important, but if you see in that top right-hand quadrant, you're going to make sure you get to it. And so, that may be a good place that doesn't require technology or any kind of new learning. That could be a good pro tip for you, Peggy.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. You were very, very inspirational, and there was a lot of just great feedback so that I'm sure you'll see in the Twitter and everything as well. But it's great seeing you virtually. I've had the honor of meeting you in person, so it's always a pleasure, and can't wait to see you again.
Always great to see you too, Shelley. Thank you so much. And I guess the one last thing that I wanted to drop there, if you're thinking about goal setting and just growth mindset, a challenge that you can take on for yourself that's small is take the word but out of your vocabulary for a week. And anytime you're about to use the word B-U-T, substitute A-N-D. I did it for 2 weeks, and it's just become a habit where I don't say but. I very rarely say but now. I almost always just automatically substitute and it could be a powerful way to help you drive towards just the growth mindset of your goals. Thank you so much, Shelley, for having me. This has been just an honor and a privilege.